Alright, I'm gonna have to be pretty creative with this one. Hello all you beautiful people. Today we're gonna talk about the conversion therapy episode of South Park. And I have a very special guest for this video.
Hello everyone, my name is Candles. Fellow content creator Sally Barbra Pryde has invited me to add my own dialogue in the breakdown of this episode.
Thanks for being here. Now without further ado, let's talk about Cartman Sucks. The episode starts off with Cartman showing off his scrapbook to the boys. These pictures are of him putting Butters into compromising situations. Now, I can't show these pictures on YouTube. Thanks, South Park. Given the intimate nature of these images, it definitely speaks to Cartman's diabolical personality. He then plans to have another sleepover at Butters that night, where he, eats Butters' banana while he sleeps. That's the most YouTube-safe way I think I could describe that. Also, obviously, that's sexual assault. Not only is it being done while he's asleep and can't consent to it, given Butters' naivety, I don't even think Butters would be able to consent. Not to mention they're still children for over a decade by this episode. A good rule of thumb, if Cartman does it, probably best not to do it. Kyle tries to warn Butters, but Butters doesn't want to hear it. Butters is such a unique character because his defining character trait is being naive. But that's not all he is, and this episode shows that off perfectly. The next morning, Cartman proudly shows off the boys the picture of him eating Butters' cucumber while he's sleeping. The boys call him out and say that it's gay. They aren't wrong. Then Kyle convinces Eric that the only way to fix this situation is to eat his eclair. That probably was not a good euphemism. Then he's caught in the act by Butters' father.
Butters, what are you doing?
I'm getting a surprise!
Oh my god, my only son reduced to this!
Well, a good parent would be rightfully shocked to see their child in this situation when he says,
My only son reduced to this!
that he sees being queer as a low point, something lesser than heterosexuality. If Butters was in there with a girl, his father probably wouldn't be upset, which says a lot about him as a parent.
Butters, how long have you been doing stuff like this?
Like what?
Don't lie to me, Butters!
Not only is Butters a uniquely naive character, this also reflects South Park's previous messages about sex ed. If you want to learn more about that, Candles actually made a video about that on his channel where he talked about a somewhat similar situation involving other characters. You can of course watch that after watching this video, of course.
This isn't a serious problem. You're just bi-curious.
What's bi-curious?
You are. Just harmless curiosity and it doesn't mean anything. We just need to get you some help, Butters.
One should not be putting a label on others. That is for oneself to do. Second, the idea of getting help in this situation is highly misguided, as we'll see. One does not choose their sexual orientation or gender, and it can't be changed. Not to mention Butters' father is queer himself. Religion is often intertwined with conversations about sexual orientation and gender. But let's make a few things clear. Not all religions are homophobic or transphobic, even among Christianity.
Father Maxie, I just don't know where else to turn. You see, I've just learned that my son is bi-curious.
Is that true, son? Are you feeling confused?
Yeah, I'm pretty confused, alright.
You see?
This is yet another example of South Park doing what it does best, showing the hypocrisy of adults. Father Maxie is in fact queer, as discussed in the video I made about gay scouts. Not only that, Butters is confused about the situation, not his sexuality. While Butters may have a feminine side, as we've discussed in other videos, it's not necessarily reflective of sexuality or gender. There's lots of feminine straight guys out there, and that should not invalidate their sexuality or gender.
Young man, these confused feelings that you're having are simply the devil's way of trying to get a hold of you.
Funny enough, that's what they said about left-handedness too.
A secluded camp where lots of bi-curious boys are all put together? That sounds like a good idea.
Oh boy, camp!
Not only is Butters naive here, so is his father. His father assumes that Butters going to a camp full of queer boys will make him straight. Not gonna happen. So Butters goes to Camp New Grace with the caption, "Pray the gay away," which in this case is literal.
Like all the campers here, you're confused, and you don't think there's a way out. But even though some people would have you believe you can't control how you feel, the truth is that with the power of Jesus Christ, you can be normal. Now, just to make sure you don't slip up while in camp, we assign every camper an accountability buddy. Let's meet Ryan, your accountability buddy. Ryan thought he could never change, but now he's learning that with the power of Christ and prayer, he can have a whole new life. Over this way, we have the cafeteria.
This is undeniably a dark scene, but one thing that's often overlooked here is the nonchalant attitude of the director ignoring Ryan's body. To him, Ryan wasn't a human. He was someone to warp. Not being yourself, especially being pressured into being someone you're not, can kill you, even among kids. That's why I feel so strongly about laws that don't force teachers to out their trans students. What do you think is going to happen to a kid who is outed to an unsupportive family? They will likely undergo conversion therapy, which may lead to their death. These laws are there to protect kids.
Bradley, how about you be Butter's accountability buddy?
Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up. Peter 5:6.
Butters here is new to the camp. He's chosen to rid himself of his affliction and forge a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
I'm bi-curious.
Do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. That is detestable. Leviticus 18:22.
That's right, Bradley. I think we're well on our way to being healed.
The Bible or any religious text can be used to support or reject whatever you want, so long as you dig it up. Also, Leviticus 18:22 is a proverb often going after queer people, but it's actually a mistranslation. After all, the Bible wasn't written in English originally. The original verse was, "Do not lie with a boy as one lies with a woman," which is very different to how the modern translation is used.
We've got another one, room 22.
Oh, darn it.
This is such a common occurrence to them, they don't even have to specify what happened. You would hope at a certain point they figure this out, but nope. Then Eric threatens Kyle because he thinks Kyle took his picture. Candles, you're a bigger fan of South Park than I am. What do you think of Eric in this episode?
Cartman's behavior in Cartman Sucks mirrors that of the camp counselors. He will go to extreme lengths to prove his straightness. Why is he doing this? Well, I think context helps going into the episode. Throughout various points in the South Park franchise, Cartman has possibly shown signs of bicuriousness himself, and this is just the tipping point. Why do you think so many people ship Kyle and Cartman? I mean, it's a weird ship because they're kids, but also, there's just a lot of out-of-context moments. You know, the whole suck my balls thing. And you know, considering the B story, this might be the creators confirming that he is a little bicurious, possibly. But I think there's a greater lesson to be learned here. We can debate about who Cartman is, what he is, all day long, but at the end of the day, this episode has a lot of interpretations, but to me, the criticism is on the act of conversion itself. This conversion constantly leads to other kids in the camp committing suicide as a result of this extreme pressure. On first viewing, you might consider this episode to be a takedown of gay conversion camps and nothing else. And yeah, I mean, it really is. But I also see it as more of a general criticism of how we tend to see sexuality and identity as this side versus that side. And, like with politics, each one tries to win people over to their cause. Both sides are guilty of this, but you'll obviously see it more with the gay and trans communities being attacked. A lot of the, I guess you would call it, straight extremists try to convert gay and trans people back over to being what they would call normal. Likewise, even a few extremists in the minority group try to win people over to their side as well. This obviously doesn't describe the behaviors of most people of either group, and this is something far less talked about, but something I've had experience with myself. As you can probably tell, I have a she/her avatar, but I personally, in real life, am he/him. This has caused a lot of people in my own comments section on my own channel to say I'm an egg.
Egg.
A term that I just had to learn recently. An egg is a closeted trans person that needs to crack. I don't think anyone calling me that has any bad intentions, really, but I need to point out that sexuality and identity are two things that are extremely personal, and they're up to the individual to decide. I've decided that I am cisgender for now. That might change in the future, but trying to say someone should be this way rather than that way is no better than exactly what the camp counselors are doing in Cartman Sucks. That's why I think this episode is really good, but I also think that's why it's about the idea of conversion, and how bad it is when someone tries to assign an identity to you. It's my opinion, and I don't think it's an unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion that sexuality and identity should be very personal things. And there's a good reason for that. Because when these two ideas become something less than special, then it becomes a fad, which is what we're seeing with a lot of these young kids. Don't get me wrong, protect trans kids, of course. But you have to acknowledge a lot of these kids are doing it because they think it's the next fidget spinner. They don't really understand the gravity of the things they're dealing with. And that is why I think what we should be doing is fostering an environment where both sides have the support they need, and criticizing those who try to impose their own identity onto you.
Wow, Candles, that's a very interesting perspective. And a message to my audience. You should not call real people eggs. It's important to allow people to go through their own journey. Not only that, gender is complicated, and assuming or asserting that someone in real life is trans without them sharing is wrong. It's not our place to determine what someone's experience of gender is for them. Only they can do that. I know for many of you, calling someone an egg is because you see yourself in someone else, but it's important to respect someone's journey and sense of self.
We will now hear a sermon from Pastor Phillips. For those of you who are new to camp, Pastor Phillips is somebody who has broken free of the bonds that afflict you.
He's bi-curious too?
Not anymore, because Pastor Phillips prayed, and by the hand of Jesus Christ, he's now completely cured. Let's hear it for Pastor Phillips, kids. Hello, campers!
Sexual orientation and gender identity cannot be changed. Nothing you or anyone else can do will change that. I will always be a trans woman, and whatever my sexual orientation is. All programs like this do is make you miserable.
God wanted me to be a man, so I buckled up in my little suit, and I prayed to be normal, and guess what? It worked!
Ideas about gender and sexuality are heavily intertwined to the point where gay, bisexual, and pansexual men are often seen as less of a man than straight men. The only men who are less of a man than other men are demi-men. Now, look at the kids here. What stands out about them? They are all male-presenting and most likely assigned male at birth. This is because there's more stigma around being queer for those assigned male at birth than female.
You see, right now you're like a paperclip. And just like a paperclip, God needs to bend you and shape you and make you straight.
One of the reasons they're unfazed about the death of all the children around them is because they don't see the value in a life that is queer. Then Cartman goes to the police to get the picture back, but they can't help him.
Do you mind telling us why we found this 1979 Sears men's underwear catalog in your room?
That's mine.
Bradley feels shame in this moment. The more you repress who you are, the more likely you are to act on it. I know for me, when I was in the closet, I felt this immense shame and guilt for wanting to dress like a woman. I would go through cycles of wearing them in secret, then feeling so much shame that I got rid of them. That happened over and over again until I finally gave up.
This is just as much your fault, Butters. Bradley is your accountability buddy. That makes you accountability buddyable. Both of you boys' behavior is jeopardizing all of the work we're doing here to save these kids.
This again shows it's not really about the kids. If it was really about the kids, they would be learning from all the kids taking their own life. Meanwhile, Cartman cries to his mom about the picture.
What is the picture of, Eric?
Last time when Butter stayed the night, I was being really nice to him, and I was gonna take a picture of him for his mom to have.
Oh, that's nice.
But then, right when I took the picture, Butters got really hot, so he pulled his pajama bottoms down, and then I tripped and fell down, and my mouth landed right on his penis, and then I thought of something funny, so I smiled up at the camera and gave like a thumbs up, and then Kyle took the picture from me, and he's gonna show it to everybody and make them think I'm gay.
Oh, there, sweetie. It'll be okay.
Let's get this out of the way. She's a horrible mother. She found that there's CP of her child and doesn't contact the authorities. Not only that, this scene shows an underlying homophobia. Eric's concern isn't about it being a compromising or inappropriate picture. It's because they'll see him as gay. Being gay is seen as the problem, not the CP.
You're really terrific, Butters. I mean, I think you're great. Uh-oh! Oh, God! Bad thoughts! Bad thoughts!
What's the matter?
I think I like you.
Well, I like you too, Bradley.
You do?
Yeah.
You like me?
Sure, I like you a lot.
Oh, God, we're both unfixable! Don't you see we're lost causes? We're just evil and nothing can change us! There's no other way out, Butters! We have to kill ourselves!
This illustrates so well why acceptance is important. Do I think on some level Butters might have a crush on Bradley? I don't know, but I can definitely talk about the struggle to accept yourself like Bradley. Him developing feelings for Butters is seen as an impure thought. For me, I always felt like I had impure thoughts every time I walked past the women's section in a clothing store. If I didn't have a supportive community when I was crossing the threshold, like Bradley, where he can't keep it in any longer, I would be dead. After Kyle's mom says Kyle doesn't have the pictures, Eric, not believing this, takes action into his own hands. Meanwhile, Bradley is doing what Jimmy Stewart did in It's a Wonderful Life. What, I have to be creative so YouTube doesn't demonetize this video.
I'm not normal. I'll never be normal.
You're perfectly normal, Bradley.
This is a beautiful moment there. We may be queer, but that's normal. One person can be all it takes to make you feel normal.
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
Get back, you're just as confused as he is.
All right, that does it. I am sick and tired of everyone telling me I'm confused. I wasn't confused until other people started telling me I was. You know what I think? I think maybe you're the ones who are confused.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be confused anymore just because you say I should be. My name is Butters. I'm 8 years old, I'm blood type O, and I'm bi-curious. And even that's okay. Because if I'm bi-curious, and I'm somehow made from God, then I figure God must be a little bi-curious himself.
This is my all-time favorite Butters moment. Butters is a character defined by his naivety, but he is not a fully naive character. Given his parental situation, it's also a monumental moment of courage. Now, I don't believe in God, but I implore those of you who do to see those you don't understand that way. Queer people are not a mistake. We are who we're meant to be.
I think I'd like to come down now.
Butters was Bradley's Clarence.
He's coming down. Through the power of Christ, we have saved this child.
You didn't do. I'm not surprised because you don't seem to care when children aren't sticking around under your watch.
Well, Butters, I guess we might as well go home. Looks like you're never gonna change.
No, I like being bi-curious.
Well, you know something? So do I.
Wait, now I am confused.
Me too, Butters. I honestly think the only reason your father changed was because there's not enough time to unpack what's there. I really love this episode, but I think another minute or two would have really helped flesh out what was going on there. I wouldn't go so far as to say the ending was anticlimactic, but it was a little rushed. And don't forget to give this video a like, comment, subscribe, not only to me, but to Candles on his channel, Lavender Coffee. Thank you to Candles for being a part of this video. If you enjoy my South Park videos, you'll probably like his too. I also want to thank my patrons, YouTube channel members, and TikTok subscribers. Without you, this video would not have been possible. Also, patrons get to see an extended uncensored cut of this video. So head on over there if that sounds like something you would like.